Welcome back to Corner Stories. Please enjoy this video and don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. And now let's get on to story 1. So my dad has always been a very show-off person. Announcements about grades, telling everyone how great his daughters are doing, telling off my sister for having a job he can't show off. When he divorced from my mom, he was a good parent for a while, and then he met Eva. Eva is way younger, has had a lot of work done, and used to send him flirty messages when he was still married. They got married very early on in the relationship because they've known each other ages. She told him not to text us too much because we are adults. She checks his phone all the time. She forbade him from seeing us Christmas Day or St. Stephen's Day because he needed to be with his new family, and it would have been disrespectful to her for him to see his ex-wife, and she's overall been an absolute nightmare. And he follows everything she tells him to do. Now I'm getting married and told my dad he's invited, but she's not. I've met the woman once and I don't like her. Plus I know my father isn't a great person, and he'd be making jabs at my mom about being older than Eva, etc. To make it fair, my mom's boyfriend is also not invited, although he's a sweetheart. My dad's answer to my invite has been to pretend nothing is happening. I sent him a save the date and he sent me a thumbs up emoji. He hasn't asked me one question about the wedding, not even the venue, even though he told me shortly before meeting Eva that he was looking forward to me and my sister getting married and how excited he was. Myself and my fiancé are different religions and cultures, so everyone's had lots of questions about how we are handling that. Turns out he hasn't told Eva I'm getting married, and he hasn't told anyone else, so he is just planning to say he has a work trip and come to the wedding. I don't actually think he's going to show up. I think he will say he is going to and then not show at the last minute, but my sister thinks he'll show up with her and make a whole scene because he told her Eva has just as much right to be there as your mom. Anyone else dealt with something similar? Do I need a backup to walk me down the aisle? Relevant comments. Sailor Spyro, I just want to point out that your dad is in an abusive relationship. His new wife is cutting him off from his family, his support system, so she can have more control over him. He probably won't be allowed to go to the wedding because she's not invited, and probably wouldn't have been allowed to even if she was. Your dad is an ass all on his own, but I think it's important to recognize that he's still capable of being abused and that it's happening. OOP, yes, they both suck. He has always been a cheater, at least 3 other women during the span of 10 years that we have evidence of, and I think, no evidence, he was cheating on my mom with her, so that's why she's constantly monitoring his phone and not allowing him to leave the house. We told him not to marry her and that her behavior is very concerning, but he seems very blind. Grumpy Smiler, it sounds like he wants to come and he knows the only way him coming without his wife is possible is if he lies about it. He's risking getting caught to be able to go, which speaks volumes about their relationship, but if she checks his phone you're causing further risk of her finding out if you keep messaging him about the wedding. Stick to phone calls so there's no record. I hope he can make it and there's no drama. OOP. I rang him the first time to tell him I was getting married and then sent him the save the date the second time asking if he was coming. I didn't know that he hadn't told her at the time. I've no idea why the wife wouldn't let him go to his daughter's wedding though she's as amazing as he says. On why his mom's boyfriend isn't invited, far more drama if I include him and exclude Eva. It's not worth the headache. He will for sure not show up if I invite my mom's boyfriend and not his wife. My mom understands that even though my dad is not the best dad ever, I still want him there. They aren't together that long, so she's okay with her boyfriend staying at home, plus then he can stay with the dogs and she doesn't have to worry about getting a dog sitter. Most of the family is going as well, so there's nobody to look after them. Update, October 9th, 2023. So it turns out my dad ended up telling Eva about my wedding and telling her that she was invited to the wedding to avoid problems. She got herself a dress, booked a hotel, etc. My dad tried to convince me to invite her, but his biggest selling point was that he thought it'd be an amazing time to introduce Eva to my mom and my mom's whole family. Why would he think my mom want to meet this woman is beyond me, and that she would feel excluded otherwise. He always rubs in our faces his new family, even calling it his new family, keeps canceling every dinner he sets up with my sister due to some emergency involving Eva, or tells us to call Eva mom. Both me and my sister are way beyond the point of calling some randomer mom since we both moved out, and he's being ridiculous. He called me again and again trying to convince me, and I said no, explaining that I knew the only reason he wanted to bring his wife to the wedding was to upset mom and that I wasn't going to let the two of them do that. He makes jabs at my mom every time he's around her about how great his new wife is. I thought the whole thing was over until I sent him some information about the wedding, and I guess he started feeling guilty and told us that he booked the flight for Eva as well, and he booked himself on the same flight as my mom, changed his whole flight plans just so he could be on the flight with her, so that my mom and Eva could still meet. AKA he could still rub his new wife in her face and try and screw with my mom's head by putting her down and making comparisons, and then Eva would just go off and shop while he was at the ceremony. I'm not sure if this is true or if he was gonna try and bring her to the wedding and hope she didn't get kicked out. I'm trying to convince my mom to change her flight so he can't get inside her head 12 hours before the wedding. I don't know if I should uninvite him. Relevant comments. OMG yes. What has your mom done to you that you'd facilitate hurting her? Why does he know so many details of your mom's travel plans? OP, she is the main reason I haven't uninvited him yet. She keeps saying I need to have a relationship with him and being more understanding. He knows because he asked and we figured he was trying to avoid being on the same flight as her new update, posted December 17th, wedding has happened. It just took a bit of time to update because it's my life and it all went south and was too raw to try write in a coherent way. It still probably won't be super coherent. Spoiler alert, my dad got uninvited. Okay, so update. I asked him to change his flight because he had specifically asked me what flight my mom was on so he could avoid her, he had said, and my mom was flying with my grandpa so it would have been quite hard to change their flights to avoid him. My dad told me he'd changed flights and that he'd invent some lie to tell Eva. He also said I was a horrible person for not believing him when he told me that he had not booked the flight out of spite, but he told my mom he booked the flight on purpose so that she could meet his new wife, and what reason would there be for wanting them to meet other than to be an AH? I thought the whole thing was resolved and my mom was really adamant that she wanted my dad to be there because I don't have a great relationship with him and she knew it would have meant the end of the relationship if I uninvited him. Fast forward to 2 days after the conversation, my dad rebooked his flight and sent me a message to say he had changed flights. Then that evening he calls me. I answered the phone and I could hear someone screaming down the phone. Turns out Eva got her hands on my dad's phone, read the messages where I asked him to reschedule the flight, and she rang me shouting down the phone that I am unhinged, I am a horrible person, I am effed in the head. She said that I am so weird because I'm in my 30s and I still talk to my parents. This one was really weird because am I meant to stop at a certain age? And that I'm jealous of the fact that my dad has a new life. I was very calm and said that I'm sorry she's upset, that the issues around the wedding aren't really related to her directly and that my dad was trying to upset my mom. I also said my mom's partner is not coming either so it wouldn't be fair to have her there. She started shouting that my mom was a fat old cow and I lost it. I absolutely lost it. In this whole thing my mom has said nothing bad about Eva. I told her I never had any issue with her until now, but that she's a crazy bitch who is super controlling and that I was so glad I never invited her. Then I hung up because by that stage it had been 2 minutes of her shouting at me and I didn't feel like there was any point in talking any longer. The whole time this was going on my dad was in the background saying feebly, "Oh no, don't be mad," at her, while she was shouting down the phone at me. Anyway, next day my dad calls me and says that Eva was upset because he didn't tell her about changing the flights and that I was awful for responding to her like that. He also said, "Do you really think this is my fault?" And I said yes, and he said, "Do you really refuse to take any responsibility? None of this would have happened if you had invited her like I asked you to." And I said, "Does he actually think he has any say in my wedding when he didn't even ask me what type of ceremony I had, never asked to see my dress or get involved in any way, monetary or otherwise?" He asked me if he was still invited and I said obviously not. He then told me to be careful what I wrote in my messages to him because she was monitoring his phone, and I said I'm not speaking to him again so that won't be a problem. The wedding was good. My mom walked me down the aisle and there was nobody there to cause drama, so in the end it all worked out for the best. The whole thing was just a lot more dramatic than I originally thought it would be. We thought he might end up not coming because he was too entangled in his lies, but for sure did not expect the call I got, and it was very close to the wedding when all the drama happened. Story 2. I, 26, have been with my boyfriend for the last 4 years. Oliver is a bit older than me, he is 40. He came here, Canada, from Europe to study a new major and eventually move here. I work for the university and finishing my master's. I found out I was pregnant in September. It was a shock since I was on pills. Oliver wasn't exactly excited. He at first accused me of messing with my pills. I showed him that I took all of them and I have no reason to lie. When I suggested abortion, he said it's out of the question due to him being Catholic. He said he had time to think and decided that it was God's plan. I told him I am not religious, but okay, I respect his beliefs. He suggested getting married before the baby was born. I felt rushed but agreed because it was important to him. He went back to see his parents and invite them to our wedding in person. He initially was answering me, but now he blocked me from everywhere. I know from a mutual friend that he posts pics on his social media that he is partying. I feel so stupid. I listened to him and his stupid speech about abortion. I let him decide for my life. Now I'm very pregnant, alone, and a working student. My mom died when I was a teen, and my dad remarried almost immediately, and we are not close at all. So I have no support. Would I be an AH to contact my Catholic BF's parents and let them know how their son abandoned me? Update. A lot has happened, so I feel like I owe an update. I decided to email Oliver with a new email address. I told him I know our relationship is over, but please help me as much as you can with the baby because I'm very scared. He almost immediately replied. He said he can't believe that I'm still stalking him and I'm a despicable slut. He said the baby is not his and I tried to trap him to raise my affair baby. He said he had some time to think and the timing doesn't make sense. It was the time I was working late at the lab, so it must have been one of my coworkers' baby. I was not unfaithful. Ever. And he conveniently doesn't remember that during that period he was guilt-tripping me every night to have sex with him no matter how tired I was. He said he is heartbroken and now focusing on himself and wants nothing to do with me. I ended up crying a lot. It's all my fault. Red flags were there and I was stupid enough to ignore them. I talked to his friend. I'm friends with him and his wife. He said his parents are very old, so don't expect much. His friend's wife was super nice. She said I can start working in their cafe as of today for extra cash. She is also going to help me buy used baby stuff. My plan is to work at the university during the day, study, and work in their cafe in the evenings and all weekends until I physically can't. Luckily, I can go on paid maternity leave because of my day job. After that, I'll try subsidized daycare so I can work. I'm gonna post another update if anything happens. Thank you all. Edited. I had a very traumatic childhood. I'm not going into details so I cut my dad out for a reason. I know Oliver is much older than me but he was the first and only person I could open up about it and connected. So to say I feel betrayed by his actions is an understatement. I will absolutely talk to a lawyer in near future to evaluate my options. Thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to connect with each other in the comments below. Until next time, be kind, be curious, and I'll catch you in the next video. Corner Stories signing off.